Hi, everybody. Welcome. We're so excited to have you here. So you are at House Incubator, and I realize that maybe not many people know what that is or what we do here. So I'll just give you a quick background because, maybe that will be helpful before we dive in. I'm so excited. Obviously, we all are. These are two really amazing women in the industry. But yes, so House Incubator. We started out 6 years ago as House Agency, and we started out primarily as a wholesale sales agency because that's what we felt was the most helpful thing for emerging talent, to help them understand how to break into the US and international market, how to really make their collections commercial and just brand it well, grow their community. And so we've been doing wholesale sales for about 6 years now, but during that process, we've just been so excited, and it's felt so rewarding to help specifically emerging talent. So that will continue to be our focus, and we decided to rebrand to House Incubator because it's a process that's bigger than just wholesale. It's really nurturing and supporting emerging talent. And because of that, we have amazing women here. Recho Omondi, I don't think I need to introduce her. Most of you probably, She has an incredible fashion podcast, The Cutting Room Floor. And she's interviewed so many great people, and her episodes are very educational. So I feel like you will learn a lot tonight. And then we have Mina of Maimoun. Maimoun is a store based in LA, online, and it's in support of emerging talent. So obviously the synergy is very clear why we want to hear from Mina here. So I'll just pass it on. Enjoy.
Thank you, Karina. That was awesome. Okay, can I make myself comfortable? Is that okay? Can I sit cross-legged? Okay. Hi, everybody. Karina explained everything, so I guess you guys get it. But I'm excited to interview Mina, who owns the brand Maimoun. But before I do that, I just wanted to just give a little context. So Karina and I are friends, and she has a showroom called House Incubator, which is where we are. And this was my first time just we're friends, but I've never seen her outside of, or how do you say that? I've never seen her in her work environment. We're like the kind of friends that we never really talked about work, really, I guess. Dinner, drinks, all that stuff. Hi. And so this is my first time seeing her in her work environment. And I walked through the door and I was just so proud. I was like, wow, there's so many designers that you carry. I don't think I ever realized how many brands that you represent. So I guess for starters, I'll just say I'm having a proud friend moment. It's kind of nice when you get to see their friends in their element. And the other thing I wanted to say is that if I'm assuming everybody here is interested in the fashion industry, and I feel like in fashion, especially when it comes to the traditional media and everything, we talk about kind of the same brands and kind of like Gucci, Louis, Prada, Proenza, whatever, all the time. But there really are so many designers in the world. There's so much clothes in the world. And they're at different price points, and they're from different countries. And so I just want to highlight for a moment that we're gonna kind of be talking about that, which I just think we forget about sometimes. There's so many craftsmen and so many people working really hard and doing the thing. And so I feel like that's part of Karina's mission with House. It's part of your mission with Maimoun, is really highlighting those designers who don't get that shine but are still making really beautiful, cool things. So that's the preface. Okay, so diving in. Hi, Mina. How are you?
Hi, Recho. How are you?
I'm good. You didn't answer
good
though.
As well. Sorry.
Okay, good.
It's nice to be here, and I just want to say thank you, Karina, for having me, and Recho for interviewing me, and it's an honor for sure.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Okay, so let's just start. The name of your company. So Karina, just for clarity again, has a showroom, but you have a store.
Yep.
So you and Karina, you and House, essentially, House Incubator, you guys work together closely.
Yes.
She has the designers that you want to sell.
Exactly. So, every few months, it feels like almost, there's kind of this running joke within the industry where retailers are like, I feel like we're in market every single week, but usually every 3 to 6 months I'll see Karina, and there's a few designers that she carries that we carry in our store. And, she's one of those wonderful showrooms that really has her finger on the pulse of like what's happening with some of our emerging designer talent. And so we enjoy our appointments together as well. Like, we have fun, but also really great designers like Mozda Matan, who I've been carrying for a while now, and Paradisai, which has come back. So yeah, I mean, we have, it's a great relationship, very symbiotic.
Let's start with the name, Maimoun, first. How did you arrive at that name?
So I'm Persian, and the name Maimoun actually comes from Farsi, Maimoun, which means to hold a social gathering, an event in your home. And I'm looking at my Persian friend here. And so while I was growing up, my parents, they left Iran in 1979 after the revolution. And so for them, they had lost their culture by leaving Iran. And, culture was so big for them. It was their way of life entirely. So to move from Iran to the USA, where they really didn't know many people or didn't have much in common with Americans, it was a way for them to bring their community close. I'd say, like, from the diaspora, anyone that was Iranian. So they kind of found each other there in Long Island, which is where I grew up. And
your parents met here in America?
No, they met in Iran. But 2 weeks after they got married, they left Iran. And yeah, they were here. And so it was just a way for them to pull the community in by having and hosting different events. And at these events, they would bring different artists, poets, instrument players, just beautiful people from all parts of the creative industry. And they would host it in their home, and they'd set up like a microphone, and they'd have like, it's actually quite similar to this. And they'd have, chairs, auditorium style. And so they would just pass the mic around, and everyone would have their moment, and it would be incredibly special. And what they actually would call it is Shab Sher, which translates from Farsi to English as Night of Song. So it's really something I wanted to replicate with the designers that I brought into the space, kind of just like inviting you over to my home, and how anyone would give like a little tour or share the things that they really loved the most. To be able to do that was kind of what I wanted to do with the store.
I love that. Yeah. And it has no relation to your name, which is Mina.
No, it sounds very similar, but
okay. Coincidence.
Yeah, it's a coincidence. It's kind of funny in that regard.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 8 years ago, you started an online store called Maimoun. How does one? I have so many questions about this because from the beginning, you knew that your mission was to celebrate emerging designers, correct?
Yes.
So then how does one start an online store with limited funds, celebrating emerging designers who I'm also sure have their own cash flow struggles?
Yeah.
What was your first expense?
Okay. So the store is entirely self-funded. And as you bring that up, like your first expense, I remember having this moment in my apartment in Williamsburg where I was just like, it was kind of like the last day before all the orders were due for the store for the next season, that I was planning on opening the store online. And I was having this moment of just like, okay, like I'm gonna commit thousands of dollars to designers that I don't know, if I'll have the traffic for it, if I'll have the interest for it. And I remember sitting there with my best friend and her being like, you got this, you're gonna do it, submit those orders, there's no, like, you're not backing out. And so when I had committed to those orders, those were my first expenses, I was just like, that was the moment that I kind of like crossed the threshold, but also I was like, I do have this, and I will make it work. And when it's your own money and you're kind of figuring that out, it's a whole other layer. I started, just to be completely transparent, I started with $5,000 of my own money. And at the time I was working a job that was remote, so I would work from home. And I thought to myself, I'm like, if I have a job where I'm working from home, I have to be so dumb not to like make something from this. Because at the time also, not every job was remote. It's kind of just the norm now. But
I was going to say that's very ahead of its time. 2016, working remote.
I got really lucky. So like I knew that I just had to like make something happen from that. And I wasn't happy at my remote job. It was paying me, but it wasn't like where my passion lied at all. So, yeah, I mean, the expense of that was definitely like, it's a threshold to cross. And once you cross it, it's kind of like do or don't, survive or don't. But like, I'm someone that like, if pressure is applied to me, I will rise to the occasion. That's just my personality.
So you spent primarily on the goods, right? On the
Yes.
designers that you wanted to carry. But then how did you build
Website.
Well, not a website, but
Yeah.
something harder, which is an audience. Like,
Yeah.
what made you think there were going to be people there to buy it once it went live?
Yes, that was the other, like, honestly, thing that would keep me up at night. Because at that time, like, there wasn't an expectation that this would work. So for me, a lot of, like, mitigating that risk was, okay, well, where is the online audience kind of currently? What's the town square? So after locating what that is, it was Instagram at the time, which is still the town square, I think. But I ended up creating this Instagram account. It was kind of like this, it was like a Tumblr almost, because I would post just like a bunch of inspirational photos there. And then also at the time, I had graduated from FIT in design. I'd also done business as well, but I would make like fashion illustrations and I would post them to this account, and people really loved like fashion drawings at that time. So like it gained a lot of like eyes and attention. And yeah, just like fun inspirational photos. And I did that one full year before the store opened. So I knew like at the time of launch, okay, like flip the scripts, I've got something new to offer these people, and there's an audience that was just intrigued by the arts and like fashion.
But did the Instagram account, was it called Maimoun?
No, it wasn't. I forget what it was called.
So you built a following and then you flipped it on them. And
Yes.
And then
Oh yeah, you gotta flip it on them.
Yeah.
Like, come in with the hard inspirational photos that like people need to share and send to one another. Get that engagement going, and then just like delete and just recurate.
Recurate. Okay, question. This
Yeah.
is kind of like a break / question for the audience. Do you guys feel like inspirational images work as well on social media as they did, not just social media, Instagram specifically, as they did like in that 2010s Tumblr era? Like, do you guys follow any Instagram accounts that are just like vibes? Oh, really? Everyone does.
So like not original content. It's like content that's kind of curated.
Yeah.
Inspo. Yeah.
You guys follow a lot of those? Interesting. Okay. So you were like that, but it was like fashion illustrations.
It was fashion illustrations, so that was original content. But I would sprinkle in like inspirational content, and then that kind of just like grew the following, because the engagement was there and people were sharing it, and it attracted the exact audience that I needed. So it was a good cheat in that regard. But also, like, people like the fashion illustrations. I think I was good at it.
I believe you were. How many units did you start with?
Merchandise? Oh, God. I remember when boxes were literally piling up in my apartment. But probably something like around 40 units, maybe. Not too much.
Total? Okay.
No. Yeah, not too much.
Did you have any idea about like package design, or was it just like, this is getting sent in a Ziploc bag? Like,
no, I love tactile design, and I love like just thinking outside the box a little bit. Like one of my earlier ideas was like, it would be so cool if we could put things in like a poster tube and bikers can ride around the city delivering our tubes to our customers. But like, it's all part of the, process of like dreaming. And I always like to do things slightly different, but we still use the same dust bags that we used back then. And I literally take a rubber stamp and put Maimoun on it. And then I put like a little rhinestone crystal on like our packing slip with like a clear envelope. I don't know if anyone's received or familiar with that from purchases from us.
Now I want to order something.
Yeah, we got to switch it up though. I think it's time. I have to think about that, honestly.
Okay. So you had a pop-up in LA. Okay, so actually let me back up. Sorry, I'm jumping all over the place. So you started it in Williamsburg 8 years ago. And then how long were you doing? So this was based out of your home, I'm assuming?
Yes, this was based out of my apartment.
And then how long after did you decide to leave New York?
So my parents live in Long Island, and I was scrappy, so I ended up taking all of the boxes from the apartment to Long Island because I couldn't move around in my bedroom. So that was the alternative option. So we were in the basement of my parents' place for like a pretty long time. My mom helped me ship packages out. And about 3 years ago, I decided, okay, we'll move everything to LA during the pandemic. Because I was just like, why not?
But why? Why not? But also why? If you're from Long Island and you started the business in New York, what about LA was calling you?
There are two answers to that one. The first one is definitely, I'd been playing around with the idea of living in LA for so long, and I kind of just wanted to experience it. And also, I'm sure you guys are familiar, there's so much happening out in LA with the young emerging artist talent, just because it's more affordable. So I kind of just liked the energy of LA. And then the other answer is, family. I have so much family out there. My grandmother, sister, aside from my sister, all my immediate family is in New York, but all of my uncles, aunts, and everyone is in LA. So I would actually spend a lot of time there growing up. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, then why didn't you decide, because you ended up opening like a pop-up for 10 months in LA. Yeah. How come you never, or maybe you did you have the dream of opening up a brick and mortar store?
So it never really was something that I was chasing. I think that to have a brick and mortar store just came with a lot of different pieces and elements that I just wasn't ready to give that energy to. And I also, in my mind, I imagined like, okay, you have a brick and mortar, you're like chained to it, you have to staff it, like anything that happens is like gonna be like an explosive issue. And I thought also maybe it's a money pit, because Persians will tell you that if you can put things on eBay, it's much easier and cheaper and you don't have to worry about overhead. So I just I think that everyone was just so happy that it was like online and like how cool and unique that was, that I just never really gave it much of a thought. But given the designer talent that we carry, it was such I wish I had done it sooner, or I wish I had really given that its space and its platform. Yeah. But it's definitely, on our minds.
Yeah, I also feel like you started in a time when there were so many online to brick and mortar stores. I think before that, there were so many brands that, were brick and mortar stores traditionally, and they had to stumble over themselves to figure out how to develop a digital footprint in an online store and e-commerce business. Yeah. Whereas you did it in reverse, started with e-commerce and then later had the store. And I mean, so many people did that. There was Toto Kayo that started online, or stand-up comedy that started online, or MNZ. I think she started online, or no, maybe she had the store. I don't know.
I think maybe she did, but I don't remember.
Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was and then to kind of bridge off of that, there was also this time period where every one of our favorite stores just kind of went.
You mean like disappeared?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like they dropped out. And, pre-pandemic even. So like we lost Totokayo, Barney's.
Yeah.
And
There was
all these places that just kind of dropped out almost like seemingly overnight. And it kind of just made me feel like, it's kind of like when a store, closes, it's not like I don't have a moment or I'm like, ooh, yes, less competition. It kind of makes me feel like, okay, that's a temperature check and I should be maybe a little nervous if that's happening. So it kind of like, it didn't push it along because maybe those factors as well, now that I'm thinking about it.
It's interesting. Yeah, we lost a lot of retail. A lot of retail.
Oh my God.
I felt it really in 2020, but
Yeah.
maybe even a bit before then too.
Right.
Yeah.
And oh God, I was such a fan of that Totokayo store on Crosby Street in the building with the 4 floors. I don't know if you've got, some of you guys are saying,
Yeah.
yeah. And yeah, to see, that was like, I thought that store was just like a work of art. To see that kind of just like bite the dust was, it's
what I will
not
say to that,
encouraging. Yeah.
it's not encouraging, but what I
Yeah.
will say to that point is that sometimes
Yeah.
certain things are not working for certain people because of things that might not affect you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
Like
of course.
it could be like, oh, these three out of 4 people all made the same mistake, but you might be the one person that was like, I was handling my money properly.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing things I couldn't afford,
Yeah.
A lot of those stores took on a lot of money from outside investors and kind of scaled too quickly, and that's not the point of this conversation, but
or some didn't make their store ADA compliant.
Oh, okay. You can ask us more about that after the jump. Okay, so the store that you had in LA for 10 months, how did that come about? Was that meant to be a tester for a store eventually? Or like, what did you learn in the process of doing that?
Yeah, so rest in peace to that place as well. So that store kind of came about because it was in my neighborhood. I was walking past it, and the space itself was just so unique.
What neighborhood?
It was in West Hollywood.
Okay.
Yeah, so I ended up just kind of going for it, and my hope was it was a short-term space because the landlords just weren't trying to. Their idea was like, we're gonna knock this place down. It was an older style looking store, which I loved, but it was under new management and they were gonna knock it down. But they were like, you can have it for 3 months and we're not touching it, we're not doing anything, and that's how you're gonna receive it. And so I was just like, well, okay, it's a good opportunity, but there's always a chance sometimes when things might change and you never know. So we ended up signing just a 3-month lease, actually. And we turned it around in a month and a half. So they gave us like the first month free. And within a month and a half from the lease signing to the open date, we had a fully fleshed store. And then, the 3-month period passed and, we were kind of quiet, like, okay, like maybe we can just keep it moving. And, the next month, and, come December, I was like, okay, this could be permanent maybe. But, unfortunately, we did receive an email from the landlord saying that they were not going to knock it down and that they found a new tenant. So that was willing to pay more than double we were.
Of course, there's always one of those on your tail.
Yeah, it's a gelateria now.
So what did you learn about like the customer?
Yeah, I mean, that to me was one of the best parts of having that space. Like, I would staff it like once every couple of weeks or once every week. But I truly did enjoy getting to meet our customers, seeing them up close. The energy was just like it gave me energy. And, you get to know them over time. Some of them ended up becoming friends of mine. And it was just like a real beautiful space to exchange ideas. And in real time, like to have that customer feedback that's what we want the most. Is that like data, what's not working, what is working, what are they responding to, where are they going to on the racks, what are they trying on that's just not working out anymore. So there's a lot of information that you can get that unfortunately, analytics from Shopify will not be able to provide you with. And that is the abandoned cart in real time option. Because you don't usually know. And sometimes we always think, okay, there's friction on our website, what can we make or like fix or make better? Or you'll get a DM and or they'll come in hot with the customer service emails, and it's just like, okay, well, tell me more. Mm-hmm. But like, in person, there's a lot of that back and forth, and there's also like, reinforcement about what you're doing right and what they're loving about it. And that to me is like, what keeps you going, and it makes it, so much more fun to continue to provide for those kind of customers as well. Yeah.
I'm surprised that the West Hollywood girlies like got it.
Yeah.
I would feel like it'd be more like Echo Park, Silver Lake, like where people are a little bit more like independent, free thinking. Did you like consider that at all, or hesitate, or were you surprised by the amount of people who did?
Yeah, so we had a lot of people come in from the east side and the west side, actually, like Venice, Santa Monica. That was pretty popular for us too. But yeah, I mean, the kind of the thought process was definitely more of like, okay, well, we didn't sign a 5-year lease here, and we are testing things out. Like, I also felt like, okay, let's try this out for 3 months, because maybe I just don't have it in me, or maybe it's not for me, or maybe I want to stay online still. I didn't know. I mean, I'm not coming with, a big investment where I have that kind of ability to throw it around a little bit, and, so a lot of that was testing it out. And, we definitely did find out, okay, like, our customer wants us on the east side. They're definitely coming from the east side, but also a lot of them would come and it was kind of like a destination for them, just West Hollywood. I wouldn't say, maybe sometimes Maimoun as well, but like there's so much to do out in West Hollywood that it was kind of like a little treat for them to get out. And they showed up, thank God, they really did. So that was really awesome and amazing.
So you've never taken on any outside investment?
No.
So everything's been cash positive?
Everything, has been cash neutral. Everything has been cash neutral. And, there are, well, the thing is, when you're running your own business, you're reinvesting all that money right back into it.
All the time,
as you know, like, it's just like, oh, cool, I came up, like, with a positive, the bottom line looks great here, but like month to month, it's just like, am I making money? I don't know. Yeah. But you really have to love it, and you really have to enjoy it. And again, every dollar that I'm making is just like, how can I make the store better? How can I make the store bigger? How can I create a more beautiful experience for the customer? How can I, do a service to the designers that I carry and make sure that, they're getting their name out there? And, what can I invest in more? What kind of marketing can I do? It's all just like, it's a lot, different things that we're addressing. And, just to be even more transparent, like, we're not a big team. We're a team of like 4 people only. So that's definitely, part of it. And I'm sure there are a lot of like independent designers out here who know exactly what I'm talking about with all of that stuff. And again, yeah, you really have to, and I'm sure you love what you're doing, Recho. Like, you really have to love it in order to like, yeah.
To do it for so long without necessarily seeing that return until later, yeah.
Yeah, and there's always the future, like, that keeps you moving in that direction of like, okay, like, this is what it is now, and in the future maybe it grows into something bigger and whatever, but maybe it's not what you're looking for either. You kind of have to. I'm just like so happy to be doing what I'm doing every day and enjoying it, because that. I would hate to show up at an office and sit at a computer all day long.
I shudder at the thought. No shade to anybody who does that, though.
Yeah, some people are doing that, and I did that too. Like, I know.
Same.
I know what that's like as well. So I just feel really, really grateful to be doing what I'm doing, and that to me is fine if it's, not wholly profitable either.
Yeah. Okay, so that brings me into my next question, which you just
Yeah.
mentioned something about making sure you wanted to service the designers.
Yeah.
So something that you do, something also that Karina does with House Incubator is you guys spend a tremendous amount of effort in teaching the designers and explaining certain industry standards to them and helping them get off their feet. I find this to be, I don't want to say shocking because I get it. It feels like strong philanthropic work.
Yeah.
But personally, one of my biggest pet peeves is hiring someone to do something and then I have to teach them how to do it.
Yeah.
Like when I'm transacting with someone, I don't want to be in a teacher role. That's just always been a thing.
Yeah.
I'm going somewhere with this. But it's like, hiring the plumber, teaching them how to plumb my toilet and then paying him for the work that I just taught him to do. It's like, I don't have time.
Yeah.
So when I know so many people that are either showrooms or store buyers that kind of do that coaching with the designers, I find it to be noble, but I'm like, doesn't that just give you so much more work when you could be like, to explain, especially because you guys are going for young, new designers.
Yeah.
Do you what's the payoff for you? Like, why?
Yeah.
I mean,
Good
for lack of a better, not to be crass, but.
No, I mean, it's a good question, and I'm sure there's a lot of young designers and artists in the audience, and I think that it's good for them to know as well. I will say there's a sliding scale. There are some designers where I feel super excited about and super passionate about, and I know that if I just show them, this is what a line sheet looks like, this is what pricing should be, this is where your margins should lie, it's a small feat for me to know that they'll catch it and we'll be able to volley. Because I know the pieces will do well with that, bit of information or, length of time. There are also some designers that, come in and it's definitely more of a work in progress. And, maybe I'm a little less passionate about what they're doing. So I'm kind of like, I have my eye on you. I'll check back in with you as seasons pass and we'll see if it's a fit eventually, and I'm sure, Karina, you agree probably with some of that. But I think showrooms actually probably have it a little harder than I do because you're taking in some pretty young talent as well. And there's also a lot of designers I work with that are pre-showroom. And so we'll also work with them on how to get to a place where it makes sense for them to scale in a showroom space rather than just with me or knocking on doors of retailers. So listen, if I'm so excited about a designer, I will be let me be that bridge for you because I'm honored to be carrying your work. Actually, Ali Z is one of the designers that I'm super passionate about. And she's currently building her program up and she has the know-how down and the production down, which actually she's figuring it out. But we're helping a lot with different things in terms of helping her with growing the SKUs or managing where she should go in terms of different retailers even. So it's kind of interesting in that regard. And yeah, again, Karina, you know all of this, so.
Do you ever come across designers who you can tell they're not very good pupils, they're just not catching on or learning? Because some people are too creative for their own good sometimes, if that makes sense.
Honestly, I don't think I'll knock on that door because I usually get a really good feel from just the outset of what they're able, how this first email or second email or what your Instagram is about or how you're growing from season to season to know, okay, they're a little scattered, they're a little too green. But also, I like green sometimes too, and I love a lookbook that isn't a polished lookbook. I love when, you don't have the hair and makeup crew and it's just you taking selfies on your iPhone and that is maybe how you're showcasing the work, or it's not it doesn't have to be a big production. Sometimes I'll see, designers come in with the whole shebang, everything. And then I'm like, okay, it seems like you're too maybe far along for us, or you're coming off a little too far along for us. So I less polished, honestly, I prefer.
Why is that? Does that feel intimidating to you, that the designer might be too far along?
No, it's not that it's intimidating. It's like, I feel like they're looking for a different kind of buyer. For us, like, everything kind of still has a fingerprint on it. It's more loose, it's more flexible, there's more of a conversation. And usually if they come in with more of those like polished images and things like that, they're represented by, a bigger showroom, or it's just like, it just seems like it's coming across like they're a little bit bigger than what they might be, and they're putting on something that might not actually be. So it's kind of like, come as you are, be transparent. If you're on a budget, if you're on a dime, don't blow it all on a fucking photo shoot either. Keep it real. I think you just have to be genuine about your approach, and I respond to that.
Okay, so then that's a segue into the big question that a lot of young designers ask, which is, should I have a show? Should I have a presentation?
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, so that's like, actually, I feel like every, fashion week, that's a conversation that we have with the industry kind of buzzing about different designers, and, whether it's all worth it. And, it's expensive putting on a fashion show. It's not cheap, and a lot of times they'll do it, and it's like, they get the press write-ups, and it's like that one, really buzzy day after the show, and reposting images, and everyone's talking about it. And, sometimes if you're lucky, you'll have that like viral moment, but it's a lot to put forward for the dream of it all possibly working out. But I mean, I think more of the conversation should be like, in lieu of having a runway show, what could it look like? And even if it's something that you do during Fashion Week. And a lot of it is honestly, like with my designers, DIY fashion shows. So things that might just happen in a friend's place or at a store that's like able to offer them a space to showcase their work. And it's on the sidewalks, and it's not like super fussy. And we're all crowding around and just like excited about the fact that this is all happening. Some of it is presentations. Some of it is just like coming out with a lookbook and posting that on your Instagram during Fashion Week and celebration. So it can look so many different ways. I will say, like, some of our designers, younger ones this season actually, like Gauntlet Chang and Gabe Gordon, they had a...
Gauntlet Chang considered young?
I mean, I wouldn't say they're super young, but, it's still, like, it's not, like, it's a small team. It's not a big team, really? And it's, like... Every effort that they put forward is really, it should be celebrated because, they're putting everything into it. Yeah. Backstage, actually, at Gauntlet Chang, one of the designer's fathers was still embroidering one of the pieces that went out on the runway like 2 seconds later. So, what I will say about that was those two designers, Gabe Gordon and Gauntlet Chang, they got investors to help with the runway shows. So I think Gauntlet Chang had Catbird and Gabe had something else, I can't remember. But I think what we're finding is, bigger stores or bigger brands are so interested in that cultural capital that more conversations should be had with, if possible, with these bigger brands to pay for it. And they should.
Sure. Yeah. I feel like the designers that do those kind of renegade shows where it's like, oh, just me and all my friends came together. I've always been like, I used to be so envious of people like that. I'm like, yeah. I don't have that many friends. Like, yeah. I don't have They have like these odd future level of friends. You guys know what I'm talking about? Where it's like, yeah, me and my friends all put together a show. I'm like, how many friends do you have?
Like,
even when I was younger, I had like 4.
yes.
I was like, and none of them are coming to help me with this.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's true. Yeah, that kind of reminds me of a show that, like, I think Sofia Coppola's friends did in the 90s on the sidewalk.
Yeah, yes. I mean, I read about it. I wasn't there, obviously.
It's
but
like,
yeah.
oh, that's so cute. But also,
Like, I don't have any friends.
you have some good friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't think having a runway show should be aspirational. I think it should feel right. I think you should have the right support. And I think it should be as genuine as possible. Like, people, I think like the energy around a scrappy or genuine show is just as palpable as a big runway. Mm-hmm. You know? So, I mean, I think they agree.
Yeah, I mean, it's electrifying when you've like seen good raw show. If the clothing is good, or if it's strong, or the story's good.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
I think it's more about getting the industry people to come.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them, you know, their days are booked. I was just, you know, with some fashion people. Yes, fashion people. I'm technically a fashion person.
She's a fashion girl.
I see them as like extraterrestrial. But I was with like some fashion people yesterday, and they were like, you know, their schedule's booked by obligation to go to certain shows. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that a lot of them have, whether it's like at the magazines or whatever kind of like legacy media, sometimes they don't even have time on their calendar to go to like a new show or a brand new person, or, you know, so.
I also think that's true, but I also think that there's such a thirst, and I think this is media generated, for anything that feels new or different. Like, you know, that buzzword in media is, this is the new, or that just dropped. Yeah. So for them, I feel like they get hungry for it. If like if they find out about you, and if there's like, they'll seek it out. I don't worry too much about my designers if they're talented, attracting that attention. It's, if you're doing what you're doing and it's interesting, people will find you. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, it's, I don't know. Mm-hmm. I'm intrigued by it, at least, so. Okay,
so then before we ask some audience questions, can you name some designers that you're currently carrying that you're excited about?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, there's a designer, Talia Beer, who we're bringing in next season, London-based. I'm super excited about her. I just think the silhouettes are just fun and unique. And she's been coming up on the scene for a little bit out there. Let's see, another designer. We love Mazda Matan, who is actually represented by Karina. She's amazing. She's a Persian-Peruvian designer that still works with local artisans to create her pieces. It's actually pretty unreal. Let's see, some other, Ali Z, I'm gonna bring her up again. She works with upcycled metals, found objects. So all of these are melted metal alloys that she'll literally cook in a pot, and she'll put into these moldings, and each piece is just a work of art and super unique. And I just truly love her mind and her energy and passion for it, because that's not easy. As far as other designers that I love all my children. I really do. I really do. And I love most of the relationships I have with them as well. Like, to me, it's not transactional. It's genuine. And if I feel that it does become transactional, I'm a little less excited by it and not as supportive of it. And I kind of tend to let it go. So, but that's just me being passionate about different designers I carry. Yeah.
We forgot to announce the news.
Okay.
Do you want to tell them?
Yeah.
We have an exciting announcement. Oh, I think it's exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting, I'd say. We're opening up a permanent location here in New York.
Woo!
Woo!
This holiday season.
This holiday, so it's coming at you real quick, and I'm not going to share too much about the location, but it's in New York, and it'll be a space for all of us, and I hope you all come, and we'll be doing events, and it's going to feel and be special, and we're going to have a rotation of so many talented designers.
That's exciting. Almost 10 years later,
I know.
You have your brick and mortar store.
Honestly.
Are you still going to be living in LA?
I got to figure that out.
Yeah.
Our office is in LA, so, and I don't want to leave the LA girls hanging either, so I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I love New York, so
Yeah.
it's been nice to be back here. So it's kind of teasing me, and it's on my mind, and it will probably happen, honestly.
Amazing. I love that. Well, congratulations. That's exciting.
Thank you.
We'll keep an eye out.
Yeah.
I think we have 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes for some audience questions. Anybody? Any takers? Yes, ma'am. Please stand. Please, bravado.
Oh, great.
I just have a question about your first pitch when you didn't have a store, right?
Yeah.
You go to these designers.
Oh, yeah.
How do you get them to sign up?
Oh, gosh. Okay, so what I...
Sit down now, but I'm listening.
Yeah, no, what I did was, and I think what you can leverage a lot of the times is, so I'm opening up a store and I'm carrying these designers that are maybe aspirational to that one designer, and then they're like, okay, well, I need to be a part of that. So that was, and I didn't show them, I didn't show them a deck. I didn't get approval from any of those other designers I named either. It's kind of just, oh, sorry?
Which one was the first one? Because you didn't get a full.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm trying to remember. It was so long ago, but I don't even remember. I don't know, maybe J-Chem. Actually, I had J-Chem for a long time. But yeah, I mean, it was just a matter of like sharing with them, this is the vision, this is what I'm, you got to come in with the confidence, you got to come with the, the big talk and share that kind of vision of what you're imagining, and the synergy of like the different names that you plan to bring in. Just people want to know that they're kind of being, they're kind of in the arena of other significant artists.
I also feel like it's like birds of a feather kind of thing, like flock together. Like if you're kind of creating independent, I don't know, this is also a weird thing. Like some people who are designers are privy to what the landscape of fashion design, and then there are some people who create in a silo and they actually have no idea what's going on in the industry.
Yeah.
It's interesting. But I feel like if you're coming to you or your designer, you've already heard of Eckhouse Lotta, you've already heard of Prisca Vera, you've already heard of Marquez Almeida, you've already heard of Gauntlet Chang. There's certain community of designers that you're like, oh, okay, I know what this is.
Yeah, and to speak to that, what really helped and as well is also just like having the standard of like these bigger designers as kind of these like cultural fashion markers where you can kind of be like, okay, like so many people know them, and it's easy for me to now understand what kind of store you're moving towards as a designer we're pitching it to, for them to be like, oh, I'm interested in that bubble or what you have going on there. So it definitely helps to set a standard with some larger names and then kind of bring in the texture. Yeah.
Texture, I like that.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
That you have to go around with their production or their issues since they can't create as much as a Louis Vuitton or like a larger house? So
That's a good question.
Yeah, so, actually, we don't come in with heavy first orders. That's something I've done from inception. As much as I play around with different designers and pieces that are super unique and might not be as sellable, I try not to take on as much inventory, at least size deep. I'll go SKU broad rather than like getting 10 size smalls. I'd rather have 10 different SKUs, or at least one size of each. But in terms of production, I like to work with designers, and it doesn't happen often, but where we can in real time work with them. Okay, like we just dropped this collection. These 2 styles went out super fast. How quickly can you get me like 10 more units? So we're not, I know a lot of designers that have worked with big stores where the store will like task them with like 100 units right off the bat for an opening order. And then if some product doesn't move, or things are just not moving well, they'll send them right back. And yeah, Karina, I'm looking, because you know how this goes. But yeah, so I think part of being a store owner and a buyer and creating that support system for a designer is also being there to assist them with not overwhelming them and having them grow at a reasonable pace. And I think that should be a base level of understanding that if you want to bring on a young emerging designer, you don't inundate them and you don't overwhelm them and you don't send their merchandise, like 100 units of merchandise back so that they're kind of like fucked for the next season.
Also a huge cash flow issue too.
Yeah.
Ask for an order that big. I know when I was a designer, one of my biggest pet peeves was when the buyer, whoever stylist, would ask for something from me without any understanding of what it would take from me to make it. So they would be like, "Oh, can we get this in pink?" Or when it doesn't even come in pink. Like the fabric mill only produces orange and red. Or the stylist would be like, "Urgent, I need this by tomorrow to place on Gabrielle Union." It's like, okay, well, are you paying for the FedEx? Like, there was just I felt like no empathy for the designer.
True.
You get it? He was nodding his head like you get it.
It's so true.
So I feel like when buyers have an understanding of production and aren't just asking for the moon, the sun, and the stars, it's helpful.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be realistic. And, I think part of me starting the store with $5,000 was it set a real strong and fast undertone of me being like, okay, like if I were in their position, like what would I have been able to handle? I mean, I don't think a lot of stores really know and understand how to support emerging designer talent. Yeah.
Anybody else? I see one hand. Yeah, hi. Stand up, sir.
Hi.
I just want to know, because you mentioned you have a Iranian Persian background.
Yes.
And I wanted to know that how does that affect, how does it inspire you in your choices with fashion?
Yeah.
Do you ever work with Persian fashion, Iranian fashion?
Yeah, I really love that question. So I don't know how much you guys know about what's currently happening in Iran, but showcasing showcasing culture in that country is not acceptable by the government. It's not something that is happening often. A lot of designers, a lot of people, the younger generation, don't actually become designers or fulfill what they are passionate about. So it's incredibly hard to find designers out in Iran, specifically if I'm looking to that country, to find their work is not easy, because it's just not supported in the culture there. But yeah, as far as like Iranian designers like that are based around different pockets of the world, like I try and do my best to, find those designers and support them, and because I just know it doesn't happen often enough, unfortunately.
But you're saying they would typically be Iranians who've left Iran.
Yeah,
that are in a different country, or
like the diaspora, just kind of wherever they kind of ended up. But the reason why, just to quickly say, the reason why my parents left Iran was because they were being told not to dance, not to listen to some music that they wanted to listen to, not to practice anything that was morally incorrect. I mean, there's a whole police system there, tasked with being the morality police. And what that means is you can't go out dancing at a club or things like that.
Or drink, or
Yeah.
you know, have your hair
Yeah,
uncovered, and
exactly, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's tough for sure. Good
Yeah.
question though. Thank you.
So
Yeah.
no business.
So yeah, sorry.
So no business, like in no interest.
Well, I mean, I try to locate them, and it's not been very fruitful. But you know,
there's a huge Persian community in Los Angeles.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
there definitely is.
Lots of, I mean, I guess it depends on if you're talking about the diaspora or people who are currently in Iran.
Yeah. Were you specific about location?
No, I'm not necessarily. My
Yeah.
question was more of
Just generally broad.
some
Yeah.
inspiration as
Yeah.
a choice.
Yeah.
Like how would you choose your collections, or like what is does Iran or the Persian fashion come to your
Oh, okay.
mind?
Yeah. Yes, because I like anything that is sparkly. And it's true, like I'm attracted to things that are metallics, and I like, you know, different symbolic things, and 100%, yeah, you're right.
Nice. Okay, it's 7:58. I'm gonna try to squeeze in one more. Yeah? Okay, right up here.
I just want to say that even though.
Yes, please.
How do you feel about like the post-COVID economy and emerging designers, and what do you see as like a silver lining that's kind of happening for like the next generation of young and emerging designers?
That's a good question. So I think what the pandemic did, and I maybe you guys all agree, is it brought in a lot of people who were at home and had the ability to dream and make things and finally put into motion what they had been wanting to do for so long but just didn't have the opportunity. And just like I, who was so lucky to have found like a remote position, all of a sudden everyone was remote. And then at the same time, everyone was in the, what's it called? Was on Instagram.
I was gonna say club room, clubhouse.
No, the other name that I had for it, Town Square.
Town Square, yeah.
Yes, everyone was
In the town, yeah, online.
Everyone was online. Everyone was in the town square, and everyone had time.
Yeah.
So you know what that allowed for was just a lot of people, you know, creating stuff and putting it out there immediately in real time, to see if there was any interest and get encouragement from friends, and then soon after fans that were interested in what they were doing, and then soon after things were being sent off to different people within the industry, and then soon after buyers were looking at it. So, you know, I think the pandemic, honestly, it allowed for this like explosion of like incredible designers that were, you know, making things small batch by hand and working with their resources. And, you know, oftentimes I really do feel like pressure and limited resources allows for like the best kind of creation. So that I really think that that's what allowed during the pandemic.
Yeah.
But was there a follow-up to that? I could.
What do you think is like next post TikTok and like saturation of
Mhm.
like everyone being able to kind of put themselves out there and go viral, or like just take their shot?
I think,
Yeah.
if I may,
Yes.
that's like a really interesting question, because I feel like because we are all in the, you know, figurative town square, we're all on social media. I don't know if you guys feel this way, but I've noticed this a lot, where it starts to feel like we all look alike. We're all kind of dressing the same in terms of like the trends. It's like, I get it, a trench coat, a samba, a sweater over the trench coat. Like, I get it. You know what I mean? Like, and by the way, I'm guilty. I wear all the same things. But when you start to like look at some of those inspiration counts, it kind of feels like there is no new trend this fall. Like, we're all wearing the same things, and you can tell the writers are trying to craft something. They're like, the new thing is suede. It's like suede has always been like, it's not new. So I think part of that is because of the homogeneity of the internet, but I also think it lends itself to like people craving that discovery, you know, because there are certain voices that are really loud in the fashion space, and whether that's the big box brands or the big box, you know, legacy media. Whenever you talk to people, or I guess maybe I notice it more too, because when I do interviews, I'm talking to people of all different ages and all different eras and things. And something that I notice when I talk to people who lived in what they would call real New York, They describe like the 80s and the 90s, maybe the 90s, but really I hear about it a lot in the late 80s about like everyone wanting to look different. And they would go to great lengths, like club kids, when they would go out. It was like you did not want to be caught in the same look as somebody else. That was like mortifying. Mm-hmm. And I feel like we lost a lot of that. In fact, I feel like everyone kind of want to look like we're in the same box. Yes, you'll have your outliers of people who want to look different, but even those people I still find are in their like subset of people who still dress like them. Like in school, we called them style tribes. Ooh. So whether it's like a prep look, or whether it's like a goth look, or whether it's like a Chelsea boot look, or whether it's like pumpkin spice latte Ugg girl boot, like there's still, you know what I mean? There's still like groups of people. And I feel like that even with fashion, it's still like, okay, a tabby, Layla, but like there's still certain like markers. You wear, you know, you have Aesop in your bathroom. Like there's still kind of like micro groups of people. But I do think that now, maybe not us, but I feel like the next generation, I don't know if that'll be Gen Alpha or whatever, but I think they are gonna spin the block and like actually want to like do the hunt and find different things. Because one thing I'll say, sorry, this is like a tangent and I'm like going, but I did an interview with this guy named Alec Leach, and he was an editor at High Snobiety. And in the interview, he was talking about how he basically was like plucked from obscurity more or less in Brighton in south of London, and got this job at High Snob, knew nothing about fashion. And he said as he traveled the world and was working for High Snobiety, he realized, he's like, there are so many brands in the world. There's so many people making stuff. Yeah. And he's like, it's shocking because some of these businesses are doing so well and you wouldn't even know that. Like he was like Zegna. Do you guys know Zegna? Zegna. Like that they have an insane business, and it's like not something that people would think of right, top of mind. That's also a really big brand, so that's kind of a bad example. But like that there's so much product in the world. And so I still kind of think like some designers or some brands, they're thriving in their own way, whether you've heard of them or not. You know what I mean? So it's just like that abundance mindset, which is like you can still make a way for yourself if you find your lane and you find your audience and you find your people. Yeah.
And then just to branch off of that, it's so true. It makes my job as a curator, and I'm sure Karina's job as a showroom curator, like that much more, difficult, sure, but also like we're able to sculpt something from so many different voices and so many different options to create something that is a lot more shaved down and specific, or just like a more unique experience. We're living in a time where there could be so many different retailers for so many different designers, and so that's why I really try to find designers that aren't represented by too many stores, because why should I? Like either you're gonna buy them online, or you're gonna directly on their website possibly, or you're gonna find them in a bigger box store. Yeah.
And the big box stores are not that interesting, I find, lately. I went to Bloomingdale's in Soho the other day, and I was like, Vince, okay?
And also, they're...
No shade, obviously, no shade.
True. And they're marking your stuff down after, sometimes a month within the space as well. So it's kind of like, we want to honor your work. We want to, we want the pieces to sell as long as possible at full price. I mean, if we're coming at this from a designer and store perspective, obviously not the consumer. But yeah, I mean, I think that there's such a rotation sometimes where people are constantly wanting things in and out of the mix and something new every day. And it's kind of just the culture of retail right now is just like fashion is kind of reaching this like tipping point of, certain things are just not sustainable right now.
Yeah, well, we're all making too much stuff, we don't even need this much stuff. Right. But that's why I also think the stuff that's good, works. And every once in a while you have one of those indie designers that like makes it really big, and then they become a big box brand, and then the cycle starts all over again.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It just is what it is.
Yeah.
Mina, thank you so much.
Thank you guys
for sharing your
story.
story.
Thank you, Karina. I appreciate it.
I will say that if I'm allowed to encourage this, take a look through all the collections, take a look through all the clothes, and just see if you find a brand or learn something new about some brands that you haven't heard of before. And that's it. Thank you guys for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.